things, guess housekeeping, if we want to call it that. I think we're all tired of keeping our houses right now. um, I want to thank everyone so much for coming out. There will be a recording available. You'll receive emails about it, but also feel free to check the Pullman Marketing website /webinars. We're trying to keep everything from SWIDA and the SWIDA sponsored presentations. We're trying to keep all of that posted and available for everyone to grab. We are so excited though to try and answer questions, to bring assistance. If you haven't reached out to SWIDA or the SBDC yet, we highly, highly recommend it. It is incredible, the knowledge base that they provide. And that being said, like, this is why we're having a webinar like this, to really dig deep into the knowledge, lessons from the past, how we can navigate through this season of intrigue, and we can pull together as a community. So with that, I'll let Aziz kind of get started.
Good afternoon. Thank you for attending this webinar in your very busy schedule. What I want to start off with is, during any kind of economic downturn, there are two phases. One is what I call as a survival phase, and then the other is a recovery phase. What I'm going to primarily do today is talk about the recovery phase, but that you can try to mitigate some of that during this survival phase. And I'll explain to you what you can do now that will help you shorten the recovery phase time. As far as this particular economic downturn goes, as with any other downturn, every one of these is different. You know, they have different time periods, they have different depths. So, but the lessons are pretty common from one to the other. Now, when I say economic disaster, there are some economic disasters like this that are based purely on economic, and in this particular case, of course, this is a very unique one. But I want to differentiate that from economic downturn that happened result of, say, natural disasters. And in the natural disasters, typically there would be a lot more damage, and the downfall would be much worse because there's property damage and some businesses never recover from the physical damage. But we won't cover that aspect of it. What we will cover today is all about economic downturn as a result of non-natural disasters. By the way, at any time, if you have any questions and you want to have a discussion and share some of your personal experience, by all means, please do so in the chat. We encourage that, and we will try to address all of the questions. So let me start off a little with the current situation with the survival phase. In the survival phase, there are many things you can do relating to cash flow, certainly negotiating with people whom you owe money to, and in most cases, landlords are the big number. Certainly approach them, and certainly the financial programs that the federal government has put together, economic injury disaster loan. I have to remember that. It's a acronym EIDL. And of course, the PPP for the personnel portion of it. And it's quite flexible in how much money you can get. Of course, there's a definition for how much money you can get. But what I mean by that is the use of that fund is quite flexible. And we have a separate seminar, a webinar that's scheduled for next Tuesday. We welcome you to attend that, where we will talk about the EIDL program and the PPP program in greater detail. I will also have a client of SBDC who has gone through the application process. She will be here, and she will also be able to provide you with the business owner's perspective. So it'll be highly beneficial for you to attend. Additionally, we have other webinars that are being planned. There's one on ergonomics of working at home, and I believe that would be also very helpful. In the ergonomics case, I can I can tell you a personal story. My wife, from going from working at WSU to working at home, she's a little short and the table is too high for her. So she's already experiencing aches and pains. So some of that Adam will cover. So thank you, Adam, for putting that together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, for the survival phase, I have a separate presentation. I also have a tip sheet, and we are more than happy to send those to you if you haven't started to exercise some of those things, such as how to turning off the lights and how to cut back on utility bills, how to negotiate with the landlord and your debtors and account receivables, and all of those things are covered. And we will be happy to send those to you, the presentation as well as the tip sheet. Please let us know in the chat box your email address so we can email those to you. That's about as far as I want to discuss on the survival phase. So let's go ahead and move into the recovery phase. Let's start with Adam asking me questions, and this is going to be a Q&A type format.
Yeah.
And so I would like Adam to ask me some questions that he has thought about.
Yeah, and part of this too is we're wanting to dig into not only like the lessons of the past, but what are things that are going to be relevant to us and I know from my perspective, I haven't been old enough to experience a lot of the disasters from the previous years or previous decade. Um, and I'll get into my story a little bit. But Aziz, as we're looking at the Pacific Northwest, how many small businesses survive in general? Like, is there a general percentage number of what we would expect during this type of downturn?
Um, I will answer it in two ways. One, in a normal situation, there's attrition between 1 to 5 years. There's about 20 to 30% attrition in small businesses, and that's not including the restaurant businesses. So
Oh,
that's pretty high, admittedly. And if you add restaurants to it, it can be as much as 50% attrition. So
whoa.
that's under normal condition. So if you think of that and translate that to economic disaster period, many of them, I don't want to give you false hope among those people here. If you can survive that, it'll be great. The percentage is fairly low, depending on how steep the economic downturn is going to be. So I have read numbers as high as, remember the 20 to 30% I said of small
Yeah,
businesses
yeah.
under normal situation, it could be between 40 to 50%.
Interesting, interesting. So then was there any, I guess my initial question after that is like, why did some businesses survive and why didn't others? Like, is there any common denominators in that?
Yes, definitely. Generally speaking, businesses that have managed themselves well come out of the economic downturn well. And when I say manage themselves well, of course, there are many, many factors, and we will go into the details of it. Um, they manage their funding. They have had accounts receivable processes. They remind people to pay their money on time, and they have already developed those prior to economic downturn. They tend to survive much more than those that don't have those practices already in place.
Interesting,
One of the things
interesting.
that I can say to you is that during this time, I would strongly like to make one comment, and that is use this as an opportunity to put together policies and procedures that are commonly used as best practices for small businesses that will make your recovery shallow and short. And there are
Interesting.
several best practices that we can talk about today.
So so upfront, that sounds like a lot of self-discipline and a lot of good choices. Like, and once again, this is my perspective. I am a little bit younger. I'm just over 30. And so like, if I think about watching my parents through the dot-com bust, 9/11, Airlines had a hard time trying to get people to travel again. There was Katrina, 2005. There's our housing market bust in 2007, 2008. I had to make zero decisions during any of that. It didn't really affect me. I was just barely coming out of college in 2008, 2009. Now, granted, I was able to buy a house because the market had gone down, so I could actually afford one. But then uh, a lot of my early career during doing web development was in wholesale real estate investments. So for me, like my life kind of on a luck was able to benefit from those downturns, but I don't understand like how did you feel going through each of those economic disasters that were occurring?
I wanted to say that Adam was extremely politically correct when he asked me to present this. He didn't want to use the word old, but that's what he implied when he said, "Hey, Aziz, would you be willing to do this?" Since I was young, these are his words. I was young, and you may have experienced these different downturns. You would have a good personal perspective, and he's absolutely right. In the 70s, I graduated in 1974. Thanks, Adam. In 74, and I got my first job out of my undergraduate, and just that's when, and I kid you not, the first month there was a layoff in the company. The first month, and I had just moved
Oh, wow.
from Austin, Texas, to Garden Grove, California, for my first job out of college. First month, I was laid off. So talk about economic impact that affected me directly. Admittedly, I was an employee at the time, and I was able to shift to another company very quickly. I was pretty lucky. And so the employment situation was still good, but the companies were adjusting depending on which industry they were. The company that I was first hired for was Anaconda Telecommunication. Anaconda Copper was the founding company, the parent company. That company has gone bust ever since then. But they were experiencing some slowdown. I don't want to go into the greatest details of what their business was, but the company that hired me was a telecom company. So, and they were doing just fine, even in the downturn. So that was a pretty natural. And then the second downturn that I experienced personally as a business owner was the internet bust. This happened right around 2000, right before 2000. It lasted for about 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that affected my business personally. So the way that I was able to sustain it was to continue to touch bases with clients. And my brother and I actually ran that company. It was a technical recruiting company. And what we did was we matched our clients, which are the business people, companies, and then with the candidates who were our clients as well. So
Oh, okay.
match them up to their requirements. So what we did was, and this was a process that my brother had actually instituted, and he did a really good job. He would create a really good database. So what I'm getting at is he had really good processes prior to a downturn happening. So he had incorporated technology. He created a database where he would input people's capabilities. And so when the company's requirements came in, we were able to go into our database and find a match really quickly. Of course, in this day and age, all of that is pretty much done automatically, but this was before LinkedIn and before artificial intelligence. So, but nevertheless, our processes were very robust. And if there's any lesson to be had from that downturn is strengthen your processes, utilize technology as best you can and wherever it's appropriate, because it will come to benefit you later. So we were able to rebound it modestly. It wasn't the same for another 2 years, but we were able to withstand the downturn. And then sorry, go ahead.
And did you feel stressed during that time? Like I have a lot of friends that are constantly losing sleep right now.
Yes. I played a lot of chess in those times. that was that was a stress reliever for me. I, that was when internet had just gone. We had game rooms on the internet, so I was able to stay engaged with people all over the world. So I had a hobby, so to speak. So it was actually a, what do you call it, obsession. But nevertheless, it was a hobby, and I was able to use that to at least deflect part of my stress. And also, I played racquetball actively, so I was able to go to the club and play racquetball. Unlike now, today, all the clubs are closed, so I can't play racquetball anymore. Um, but I'm kind of jumping between two different downturns. But bear with me on that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. It's helpful. Like
Now,
I hope more people come out with good hobbies out of this.
what I do now, of course, I'm much older now, so I don't let stress bother me. But I have made it a regimen to take my dog out every morning and sometimes in the evening as well. But he lets me know when I don't take him out in the evening. So if you have a pet, it's a great stress reliever. But one thing you have to do, you must do, is to exercise mindfulness, and that is you've got to mindfulness. The way I look at it is being at the moment. So when I'm taking the dog for a walk, I'm not thinking about my day ahead. I'm out there at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not thinking about, oh, what all I have to do. I have to write emails to Marie or Adam or Sarah, whomever. I'm not thinking about those at all. I used to, but I have really learned how to mitigate that. And part of that is my daughter. She's actually online as well, so she's the one that teaches me those things. So thank you, Alexa. Um, so jumping ahead a little bit to the 2007, 2008. Now, that economic disaster was a time when the internet was working full force.
Yeah.
Google was in process. You could do searches. You could do lots of things. One thing that I incorporated extensively was using social media to stay in touch with customers and really doing what we are all doing right now, and that is using this period not only to get depressed but also to make some corrections. This is a great opportunity, great time to do all that, incorporate processes that are robust, you know asking yourself, what am I doing right, what am I doing not right, instead of when the businesses are going well, one thing we do is we work in the business. We don't work on the business. There are lots of things we will discuss later. You have some questions about
Yeah.
that I will tell you things that you can do that what I mean by working on the business.
So that being said, if we're kind of looking at 30% of businesses not making it through this, what or I guess what did successful businesses do to survive?
Out of the 2007, 2008 specifically, I will give you some numbers.
Okay.
Women-owned businesses prior to the economic recovery were only 4% using social media, and come out of that, 48% started to use social media. And
Whoa.
so during that time, they learned the who's and what's of the social media and started to incorporate that as part of their regimen. Number one, I put that as number one. If you are currently not doing that, and there are lots of things that I could talk about on the digital marketing front, but bear with me. The other thing that they can also do is cash flow, managing cash flow. This is a time, if you are currently not analyzing your financial data on a regular basis, learn to do that. Um, SBDC, I'm not trying to promote SBDC here, but I'll tell you something. One of the best things that SBDC does is we will do financial analysis free for you. I mean, how good is that? When I talk about financial analysis, I really mean looking at the financial, not just looking at the, how much dollar you have in the bank, but looking at cash flow, looking at what your account receivables are, looking at your debt to equity ratio, what your inventory levels are like, and we will give you an analysis. We can do that on just walk in, give us your profit and loss and balance sheet and what your cash flow looks like, and we'll do all the analysis for you. And that is really, really important. Right now is the time for you to learn what that is. Terminologies like earning before income tax and depreciation and amortization. Learn those terminologies and learn how to manage the finances. That's really, really important. And if you haven't been doing it, this is the time to start doing it.
So Aziz, I think we do have a poll related to that if you want to launch one.
Please go ahead.
Oh, you have to do it since you're the host.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I should have prepped that better.
There's the poll. Okay.
And then there's a drop down a little bit further up where you can select which poll you want to use.
Oh, these are the different one. No, this is polling 1.
Right. So in the black, there's a drop down to switch which poll you want to run.
Oh, poll 1. When was the last time you researched? That's fine.
You can cycle through though. Because I think there's one on financial.
Okay, since we were talking about digital marketing, let's do the poll number 3.
All right, let's do it.
You would, in the next 30 seconds or so, answer this question. That would be helpful. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, this data is really interesting. When was the last time you read Google or social media reviews of your business? Last month was the highest. Last week was the highest. Okay, last month and within the last 6 months. It is so important to pay ultimate credence to what people are saying about you. This is an opportunity for you to learn from what your customers are saying, acknowledge them. You don't have to patronize them, but thank them. If they have taken, let's say, 5 sentences or a whole paragraph to write how good you're doing or how disappointed they are, spend at least that much time. Don't just patronize and simply say thank you, period, and hit return. If they've taken 5 minutes to, approximately 5 minutes or 10 minutes to write it, I find writing, people write some amazing reviews, and amazing reviews take time to write it. So think about that before you respond to them, and do respond to them and learn from them. So thank you for, I didn't share the results, did I?
Oh yeah. If there's a share button so everyone can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I think ours is within the last month, but I think we get email reviews or like email thank you notes that for our company, we receive more. But I usually take those and either post them online and make sure that there's recognition for it. So even though my business isn't easy to review, easy to do a Google review, we still try to use that feedback on a regular basis.
I'll be interested in the one feedback that received here. It says other is 1. So if the person, whoever wrote the other, could elaborate on that, would appreciate it on the chat box. So Adam, I'm going to close this, right?
Just go ahead and close it.
Okay.
And so then one thing you alluded to when you're talking about your story, you said that one industry was doing okay when the other one was failing. Are there any specific industries that tend to survive better than others?
That's a really good question. The ones that service industries, for example, in this downturn, service industries such as cleaning services that can come and disinfect, for example, it's an ultimate opportunity for them, and they are able to survive that far better than, say, product-oriented companies. So product sales are going to drop off. But there's a lot of things that you can do as a product provider, even in this period. Give them excellent service. You can do, you can be a resource for information. You can be providing complementary service that doesn't detract you from your core values. So, for example, if you are say, selling internet, say, Wi-Fi products, and maybe you want to also expand into, say, home entertainment products. You could actually come in and
Oh yeah.
install Roku and get them started on, cutting cable. Understandably, this is a mixture of service and product sales, but you get my point. You come in, install it, get them operated, and people will value that, and your business will be far better than waiting for the time to recover. So in this period, you can do more.
So, and from your perspective, is because that to me that's a agility. Like, are you able to pivot really quickly? Would you say that if a company had really good processes and had those things set up ahead of time, that they're able to be more agile than others?
Yes, absolutely. And this is why I keep stressing that this is a time for you if you haven't had those processes, robust processes in place. And by the way, we can help you, SBDC. And this is one thing, if Marie is still on, that I thought about this morning, that we could convene a team that would help each business, and we would dedicate X number of hours. We could look at and tell you, um, we would review it. Not, I don't want to use the word critique, but we could objectively give you feedback on things that you can do on the finance side, on the operations side, on the management side, on the digital marketing side, on marketing side. So there are so many different aspects to the business that during this time period we can do that, and you can learn from that. The other businesses that generally tend to do well, grocery stores, pharmacy, medical, business supporting local or regional governments tend to do well. And quite amazingly, in Moscow, or when I drive around, I still see construction businesses, construction still going at nearly full speed. It's quite amazing.
So,
No downtime.
so
I'm not sensing any downtime in that.
Marie asked a really good question of when would you recommend a business look at that, at doing that?
Um, I wouldn't say to pivot necessarily from one business to the next, but if your business is somewhat related to that, and and this is something I want to add to it, is that if you look at your competition, and if you have, nobody, I would say, works without competition. There's always competition, right? So look at your competition. If they could be leaving opportunities for you. So
Yeah,
always be
yeah.
checking out what the competition is doing, where the services you currently don't provide, where the products you don't provide, and move right in. Move right in. If you're going
And
to be extending your product sales, then don't overextend your inventory, at least in the beginning. You're just starting to get into it. Um, so that would be my recommended timing.
well, and then for the critique sessions as well, when would you recommend? Like, I know you said not to use the word critique, but when do you think that it'd be good for a business to look at bringing in people to help them assess what's going on in their business?
I'm going to step back on this one and say, if your business currently don't have a mentor or an advisor, by the way, there's another poll to that one. This is a time to engage mentors, advisors, and SBDC is one possible avenue for you. If you're currently not using an advisory pool, a advisory team, this is a time for you to quote unquote assemble an advisory team. You know,
Yeah.
if people like Marie, um, SBDC, economic development. What I'm thinking about is during this downturn, we can pool a team of people and volunteers. Some business owners that I have connected with now in this downturn are so amazing, and they are willing to provide that kind of community service. So I could also bring in those type of people. Adam, you're a prime example of that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we're here to serve and here to help. So as people are looking at their processes and working, maybe looking at getting an advisor, are there any like books or blogs that can additionally assist or things that you would recommend?
Um, During this downturn, I purchased a book. The book is called Lessons from the Great Recession. And this book has 10 chapters. It goes through the various aspects that I talked about. Starting, the first chapter actually talks about business plan. So whether you started your business or not with a business plan, this is a time for you to craft one because times are changing and your business plan is changing. So this is a time for you to sit down and say, hey, what am I going to do differently during this recovery, during this, what did I call it, slowdown period, um, and then the recovery period. This book is really good, and we're happy to send you, and you've already put down the title of the book. And it's a very easy read. Actually, I read it almost in one sitting. It was about 2 hours. It's a very easy read, and there are 10 chapters. Contributions from people, small business owners and consultants and management people with experience in this kind of stuff.
Mhm. No, that's great. That's great. One book that I've read in the past, I kind of lean back on is a book called Great by Choice by Collins and Mortensen. They did a 30-year study of companies in all kinds of different niches and industry, just a huge variety, and looking at one of the case studies was actually the airlines and why one airline might do better than the other. Because I mean, you get into the terminal, you board a plane, you fly, you get off the terminal. What makes that different? And even looking, one of the prime examples was um, Southwest Airlines. That even after 9/11, they were able to almost thrive through that recovery stage. Marie is asking, what's the title? It is called Great by Choice by Collins and Mortensen. I dropped that into the chat for you guys. Uh, it's a little bit data heavy, but they do have anecdotes and interviews and other information that help ease the read a little bit. Um, but I've reflected on it a lot during this period.
Nice. Adam, would this
Um,
be a good moment to put up another poll?
yeah, yeah. What are the other ones we have? I can't see them in front of me.
Okay. Now, I'll look, now that I'm smarter, looking at the, hey, what happened?
Oh,
Uh, Stop share results.
oh yeah, yeah. And then you should be able to start again.
Okay. Since we're talking about competitions and new services, how about this one? Take 30 seconds, if you would, please.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay, yeah, you can share results. Oh, within under 6 months and under a year. Awesome.
Very interesting. Again, we have another one that says other. So if the person who answered other would expand on it, that would be great. But under 6 months, reasonable. Under a year, that's getting a little long. But keeping your eyes on your win, who's coming up your rearview mirror is always a good thing. And this is a good time to look at them closely, learn about what they do that's good, not so good, and look for the opportunities that they can't fill it. So thank you for completing that.
Yeah.
Never,
So
never is very confident. Someone who, don't tell me there's no competition in your service or products, because there always is. When you look at competition, you don't always have to think of it as direct competition. There could be substitute. You know, for example, if you're a person that's selling pens, well, people can use pencils in its place. Now, I understand that's kind of a stretch, but not the same util. But you
yeah.
get the point. The people could use a substitute product. So that's a competition too.
Yeah, and it's when you're looking at competition, it's really good to have a eyes wide open view of it. There's a book called the Walmart Way. It's by a former vice president of Walmart, and he talks a lot about what Sam Walton did. And whenever they would do a new store, they would go and tour a whether it was a Kmart or whatever competitor store was in the area. And the lesson he relayed was he went through a Kmart. They would split up, walk all around the store, and then meet back at the car. So like no one would know who it was there. Um, and he just was like, this place is dirty, it's gross, the bathrooms are disgusting, the aisles are awful. Like our store is going to be fine. We're going to blow this out of the water. And Sam comes back and he's like, hey, like really excited. Did you see the pantyhose racks? I have never ever seen aisles done that well before. We need to implement this in all of our stores immediately. I've never seen a Kmart do this before, and it's the best. We need to do this.
So they use the competition as a learning, as a school to
Mm-hmm.
learn about what they do well so they can incorporate it, even make improvements on it.
Exactly. And even if you look at competition, you're like, oh man, they don't do our services. They don't. They're peanuts compared to what we're doing. Man, if they're doing one thing amazing, then let's hone in on that. Let's hone in on that together. And so with that, as where you're looking at competition and best practices, Aziz, what do you recommend that small businesses do to survive during this current time?
Thank you for using the word survive because I had forgotten the word survival. um, Manage your money well. I've got a tip sheet that goes into the greatest details about what you can do to manage your cash flow. It's really cash flow is the most critical right now.
Mm,
Um, Government relief that we have coming up may help you, but one thing that you want to really, really, I would say, highly recommend to avoid is over leveraging yourself, putting your house as collateral. So at the end, if God forbid, you were to lose your business, you don't want to lose your home either. So I would say keep yourself composed, attend these type of webinars, stay networked, stay in communication with people, so you don't take it all to yourself. Um, we are all in this thing together, but there are some breaks that we're going to need, and there are some breaks that you're going to have to drive, and that is the landlords, um, renegotiating contracts. Look at your contracts and agreements. If you have, especially if you have regular payments that you have to make, those are the areas that you want to look at, and that will relieve some stress for you. And if you're not the negotiating type, seek help. Seek help. It doesn't have to be a lawyer that represents you, but it could be someone whom you trust, an experienced business person that can negotiate on your behalf. But those are the holes that you need to patch right away.
interesting. So then I want to take so with that, like that's kind of the business side. You said that now that you're older, you don't worry about stress or you don't deal with stress. Like that's a bygone. Uh, what would you say to people who are stressed out about things, especially when, as a business owner, like it's your business, it's your employees, it's your home, and your family that are really all at stake. Like that feels like a really heavy burden. Like, and not that family is a burden. I don't want to say it like that. But we all have that feeling of, this is why we do the things we do, is for family. How do I not feel stressed during that? You know?
No, it's quite natural. And there are some unintended consequences as a result of any economic downturn. And this is one of those things that will happen. Um, so keep yourself composed, try as best you can, go for walks, spend family time together, keeping the social distance, of course. But those are, general, and conserve your funds, because it could end up being your limiter
Mm.
at the time of need, and this might be the biggest thing that could affect you. So my speaker is not working.
Huh?
Has it been not working the whole time?
Your speaker's not working?
Did you see that?
No, I don't see any messages right now.
I'm
Someone
not
might have
hearing
sent
you.
something to you directly.
I don't hear you, Adam.
Oh, you don't?
I can't hear you.
Hello?
Is it
Let's give it a
my
try.
speaker or Adam's speaker that you can't hear? Of both.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Preston,
Huh, okay.
Adam,
Yeah.
someone says that I'm muted. Oh, you said. I didn't touch him.
No, you're okay. I think you're good. I think you're good.
No, I can't hear you.
You
And
can't
I
hear
don't.
me.
There's a
Okay.
message here that says your speaker is not working. Alexa said we can hear both. So shall we continue? In the
Yes.
interest
Yeah,
of time.
I would continue.
Okay. If people can hear me, that's good. So yes, that was a good question about personal stress. I mean, there are tips for businesses to survive, of course. Um, the thing about this, about personal stress, that's a stress management. That's exercise mindfulness. If you do meditation, or if you don't meditation, incorporate that. Um, hopefully we will all recover, and life will be back to normal. And
Yeah.
there will be no unintended consequences. That's the part that worries me the most.
Gotcha. Okay. So then that was all the questions I had for today.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Give me just a second. I wonder if something did get bumped. I promise we are practicing social distancing.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a moment. Yeah, so it says, the speaker is not working.
I couldn't hear you, except
Gotcha. I'm gonna just change this audio for a moment.
we apologize. Ruth confirmed that she can hear, and so did Alexa.
Yeah.
But when you were talking from there, I couldn't hear. Would you mind just moving here in this room? Just stay here.
I can for this portion of it.
Okay, good.
People won't see me, but that's okay.
Oh,
But yeah, no, I think the stress part and the worry about family is one of the number one things that a lot of business owners, especially when it comes to employees, like I do feel that burden for making sure that it's not just my family, it's all my employees' families that are at risk. And so it does weigh. And so I am glad to see the assistance coming. It has helped me a lot to, for those of you who don't know, I actually do talk to Aziz on a weekly basis as a mentor and as a way to help me understand what's going on. I have used the financial analysis services And that has just radically opened my eyes to see where we are, how we're growing, what adjustments we need to make into, because like, I think one fault that we as business owners can have is we check the pulse of our checking account without necessarily taking a pulse check at our overall financial health, because those two things are not the same. Because if my checkbook is really good right now, but my accounts receivables is also really high, well then that just means that my income, my checking account is just going to keep dropping over time, without me really realizing it or keeping a pulse on the overall financial health of my company.
Makes a lot of sense. That's an area that personal stress. I can only share, my personal. I'm not very well studied it, but yeah, that could be a real problem. I acknowledge that could be a real problem. There could be family tension, and especially both of you working at home.
Yeah.
So you have to make room for each other, and so yeah, it's a challenge that I acknowledge. But there was some other thing that I wanted to also share with you. In your business, this is something that you should look at, is engaging with the community. I feel that that's really important. Participating in the chamber meetings, getting some notoriety and acknowledgement from the we also have monthly networking opportunities. So you are going to have to pick and choose. Of course, you can't do it all, but getting some face time at those opportunities is really, really important. Whether you're doing some community activity, volunteering at the 4th of July festivities, or some form where you are interacting with the community is important. I don't want to sound like I'm promoting the chamber, because I'm not, but I will say that I've gotten my personal value out of it, going to the chamber meetings. Chamber usually has a once a month luncheons, and they have great speakers at the luncheons. It lasts only maximum of an hour and 15 minutes of your time on a Tuesday, second Tuesday of the month. But under the current situation, those general membership luncheons have been canceled. But those things are invaluable.
They are. And I think one of the nice things that people may not realize is that when you're in those environments, when you're engaging with people and you're in the community, you're able to see and identify needs that you or your business might be able to fill that you might not have anticipated originally, but then now have the opportunity to engage with and either do that pivot shift with your business a little bit, or find ways to really help people in ways that you might not have realized before.
Yes, and last thing I will say about general membership luncheons is that it's an opportunity. Marie gives about 10 seconds for you to stand up and talk about your company, and also any products or services or any announcements that you wish to make relating to yourself or your company. So that's a real beneficial thing.
Yeah.
So participate, take advantage of them, and the memberships are pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think that was all the questions that I had for today. I know we're getting a little bit low on time. Were there any last comments or things that you wanted to leave us with today, Aziz?
In your business, I would say watch for red flags, and of course this is during recovery and hopefully past the recovery. Always incorporate that regimen in your business. And when I talk about red flags, look for things like slow paying receivables. If the credit lines are getting tightened, something happening upstream with your supply chain, the building where you are, is getting, I don't know, something could happen with your building where you are. So those kind of disruptions can really, really hurt your business. And so try to look for red flags, and you can put down a list of red flags that could potentially hit you and monitor those on a regular basis. Stay on top of your receivables. I know I'm sounding, I'm starting.
It's important though. It's good.
Regardless of a recession. And this is Ruthie, if she's there still, Ruthie's really good. She, I learned today, developed an alternate revenue stream. She runs and she runs a tanning salon, high-class tanning salon here in Moscow. I mean, in Pullman. And she has a series of products. It's amazing. I mean, I can't talk enough about what a wonderful business that is. But as an alternate revenue stream, she started a men's clothing online.
Oh yeah.
And she has a following a lot larger than she has for her brick and mortar shop.
Interesting.
Yep. And she has incorporated videos. I mean, she is a social media guru in the local area. Now, that said, of course, Adam is the one that's in the business of helping you. If you business people don't have the expertise, it's now time to engage with Adam. The other thing I would say, review your contracts and agreements all the time. You know, if there are opportunities to renegotiate, do that. Then the last thing I would say is always play the what if game. What if this happened? What if my supplier falls through? Or what if I have a flood? Or what if? So always be asking yourself those kind of questions. What if my prime customer, which let's say for argument's sake represents 60% of your revenue, what if that falls through? What are you going to do? So just being aware of it and just asking what you would do would be good. I'll throw some other type of numbers, between downturn and recovery. Prior to an economic decline, I would say 45% concentrated on cost control, 31% on improving sales. So this is after, and this is a time for you to, social media went from 4%, I was wrong about the number I provided, to 56% women-owned businesses.
Wow.
It's really wow. Community activity, 39% increase involvement in civic, social, or school activities to boost their exposure after the downturn.
Okay.
Really highly recommended. And that concludes my presentation. Any other questions?
No, I love all of that. And my only thing I have two notes. One is that when you talk about asking the what if game, to me, that's not necessarily a stress or worry thing, because there's a new field of thought called chaos engineering.
Oh.
And it's actually turned into more of a creative exercise of, okay, let's pose a scenario. Say we did flood. How could we work through that and come out better than we did before?
Nice.
Or if we did lose our prime customer of 60% of our revenue, awesome. How would we face that? What steps would we take? And then asking, are any of those things available for us to take advantage of now? Because maybe it's just that idea of posing the question where we can get that creative juice flowing to problem solve and look through how we can better ourselves.
And I will leave you with one thought, and that is, please be assured you're not in this thing alone. There's a lot of people that are here to support you, no charge. Reach out to us. We will certainly share whatever we can with you in expertise, knowledge, and just emotional support.
Yeah. And then,
if nothing else.
And then the last item for today is we do have a raffle of a $20 Cafe Moro gift card. I did run a random calculator number, and so we're going to, the system's telling me that it's Rosanna Wiley.
Nice.
I hope I said that correctly. And so then we will contact you afterwards and try and get your mailing address so I can send that out to you. because I can't quite hand it to you in person.
She put a heart on the chat box.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I hope the drive to Pullman is okay. I think the drive to Pullman is worth it for Cafe Moro. I appreciate having them just across the way a little bit.
But she's in Pullman, so this is good.
Okay.
Yeah. Aren't you, Ruth? I believe so. Yeah. Her business is in Pullman.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.